If you're running a small or a mid-sized business in India, should you be worried right now?
A direct answer is definitely you should be worried. The DPDP Act or the law was not there, it was okay. But after that, it is a legal enforcement and it becomes a threat for anybody who is operating in India and processing the data of any Indian citizen.
I read somewhere that around 82% of Indian companies don't even know what they are doing about our and your data.
I have worked with Fortune 500 companies. In such companies or a large MNC multinational company, things are pretty well organized. They have their own legal team, people who handle such situations.
DPDP looks friendlier on the paper, that we say.
DPDP does look friendlier on the paper, but you see how it originated. Maybe the California Protection Act was there, and then the most legal act that came into place was the EU GDPR. Thing that the government has proposed called the consent manager. If I am operating a company and I am collecting your data, so my consent manager should have these all facilities when you are sharing your data with me.
In November 2024, Asian News had sued OpenAI in Delhi High Court.
ANI sued OpenAI for training its own AI engine or the complete model on their copyright.
You know what nobody is talking about? Somewhere in Bangalore, a startup has got a notice for a fine worth 250 crores. And that too for what? A misconfigured API? Well, that's bankruptcy money, right? And it's actually a life-changing money. And you know what's the worst part? The company was not even aware that they were going against the law. Hi guys, welcome to my show, Shuffle with Shivani. And I am Shivani Tikaria. Today we are going to speak something that is about to reshape how every company in India will be handling data. It's messy, it's urgent, but honestly, nobody is speaking about it. Joining me today is Commander Pratik Bhamri. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And let me give a short introduction. Pratik is an IIT and IIM alumni. He is a DHCI certified DPO along with a CISSP. And Pratik works in Spyro, an EV company, as the head of the security. Before we dive in, I would like to understand from all of you, if you're running a small or a mid-sized business in India, should you be worried right now? What do you think, Pratik?
Hi, Shivani. First of all, thank you for the introduction. And to your question, it's a direct answer is definitely you should be worried, because till such time the DPDP Act or the law was not there, it was okay. But after that, it is a legal enforcement and it becomes a threat for anybody who is operating in India and processing the data of any Indian citizen.
So are we saying that the breach and legal penalties are going to start now?
Definitely. So because now it's rather a compliance and a regulatory framework under which you lie, and it's by law. So you are breaching the law.
You know, I read somewhere that around 82% of Indian companies don't even know what they are doing about our and your data. And that is actually very scary. What do you think about these things?
See, I have worked with over the past, say, decade, I have worked with Fortune 500 companies, and in such companies or a large MNC multinational company, things are pretty well organized. They have their own legal teams to handle such things.
Yes.
They have own GRC teams, so-called, who are the front-facing people who handle such situations in case of regulatory compliances.
But moving, Pratik, from the tech background, what about the companies who are other than tech? Do you think this would really become a serious consequences right
See,
now?
other than tech, first of all, they don't even care about such things because they aren't aware.
Right.
Let's take an example of a chai shop, right? You and me go to a chai shop, and the person who is selling, the vendor, collects our data on WhatsApp.
Exactly.
Right. In such situations, a person who isn't tech friendly but operating, we have so many cloud kitchens running up.
True.
Right. How do you handle in such situations?
Pratik, can you walk me through the penalty structure? Because, you know, these fines are not abstract.
Yeah, so these fines are not abstract, and very categorically the government has given 4 classes of fines. So the first fine is of, say, 50 crores, which says it's kind of a minor penalty that is put onto you.
Is it? Oh God.
So
Okay.
so-called minor penalty, but it's kind of a minor offense.
Right.
Then it is, say, 100 crores for something in which it's significant loss of processes that are there. Then it goes on to say 200 crores of fines, which is in case you are having sensitive matter of say child's, or there is a clause in which you need to protect children data and also say person with disabilities, their data. So there the fines are separate, and then you have the stringent fine, which is 250 CR.
Yes. So it's nearly up to 30 million USDs.
Yeah. So for a very big company, it may not be very significant, right? But for MSME,
Yeah. So for a startup, it's like a bankruptcy.
it is, I think, at times more than bankruptcy, right?
Yes.
But what do people miss in this clause is that these fines are up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Up to means that it's not that if, because of this is the fine. If you have put clauses in place, so the fine gets reduced.
So, is this specific to India, or are we talking more broadly on this? DPDP looks friendlier on the paper that we say.
So DPDP does look friendlier on the paper, but by and large, you see how it originated. Maybe the California Protection Act was there, and then the most legal act that came into place was the EU GDPR.
Right.
Right. And from there, people became sensitive about handling PII data.
Yes. Right.
And but there the laws were rather stringent, and also it was say around 4% of your annual turnover.
Correct.
Right? Which isn't there very specifically in the Indian law that has come up. So on the surface of it, yes, GDPR was easier to navigate because in India people were going on to companies which are already GDPR compliant, right?
Yes.
But because DPDP is the law which has come very new, people are rather unprepared, and it is a legal law of the land which you need to comply with. So it'll hit you rather very hard than GDPR.
Yeah, because companies don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, so it's about knowing your assets and knowing where you are gathering your data from, which rather most of the companies are not prepared as of now, and they'll take some time to understand.
Yes.
So
obviously.
So
to put this ahead, can we say that do you think companies in India right now are prepared for this?
To be very honest, I think it's maybe 2 to 3%, or maybe say on the larger perspective of 10% of companies which are prepared, but they are fairly large organizations, or if they have been in the business, then they have some kind of a matured org structure in place in which there is a dedicated, say, CISO,
right,
or there is a dedicated cybersecurity team or the IT team to handle it, or rather they are using or leveraging services of a company which is already, say, GDPR compliant.
And do we think that there has to be a privacy assessment or some kind of privacy certification those companies might have, and that's why they have an edge? Or, because DPDP is going to be applicable everywhere, wherever there's going to be data, when we are speaking about how prepared our Indian market is. So if you want to conclude, like, what do you think people can do immediately?
See, immediately, again, adding to you, is that immediately you need to do, and that's also mentioned in the law, by the way,
yes,
that you need to do a assessment of your data processing.
Correct.
Right? And that also needs to happen on an annual basis.
Yes.
And while I tell or I have a discussion with people, then there are standards and then there are legal compliances. So though the legal compliance framework DPDPA came now, but the standard on, say, data privacy, say ISO 27701, was always there. So some companies were always focusing on, or rather implementing it. That was guiding you to understand it.
Absolutely.
But definitely the thing that needs to start upfront, because the law has come, is that understand your data, classify the data, categorize it, and then have ways and means to control it.
Correct. So Pratik, after this crucial discussion over how Indian companies need to act, let me now take an example where how this misconfigured API looks like when we were speaking about the Bangalore company that has received a fine notice.
So most of the issues originate out of a human error, and misconfigured API is one such of a case. You suppose you are hosted completely on AWS, right? And you have all controls whatsoever possible in getting the data, having consent manager, all security protocols, and then you put all data, sensitive, insensitive, into a S3 bucket, right? But your S3 bucket is public,
Oh, yes.
right? So it's like you made a fortress, but the gates behind the fortress are all open. So, and that's a pretty serious breach.
And if that happens, I must say that you're not DPDP compliant.
Yeah, you are not DPDP compliant because it's everything is public. The most sensitive data have been made public, so it's most rather the stringent fine that will
And
be
then
posted.
the fine and
Yeah,
the entire episode.
correct.
Okay, so now let's talk about the compliance gap. I read somewhere through an MSME forum that only 2% of the Indian companies actually understand DPDP. That means that technically 97.5% of these organizations in India are not prepared for this. And what I'm wondering here is how is this possible? Because the act has come into effect since now a long time.
Let me just tell you that though the act has come, we were preparing. Government was also trying to mitigate it and do a course correction in how it was introduced. Say in 2018-19, we were just planning something. Then it went with some number of corrections, amendments. But on the largest perspective, for a mid-size, even for a few pretty good organizations, the grassroots level or the people who have to implement, they aren't aware about it,
Yes.
right? So that's a very big gap. That awareness itself is not there. And for that awareness, you need to have that kind of a big organization or somebody who is vertical or mature enough to understand that, right? And that gap is because it is itself very complex,
Yeah.
right? So first, the lack of awareness, then complexity. And if you even handle that, then eventually you will try to implement it. And implementation is costly.
And when even as a cybersecurity professional, when I look at these, I sometimes feel it's more towards the legal and lesser towards maybe our understanding.
True. So see, in cybersecurity domain, generally cyber is taken more of a say a cost center, right? But the first thing that gets a budget approval is something that's legally required. So the GRC budget is approved by the board at the first instant. That means you never ignore something that is legally required.
Correct.
So you cannot ignore DPDPA.
Right. But for our viewers who are mainly the business owners who probably would refer to our session, the act, or in fact, when we read GDPR, apart from say legislative control, sometimes the CTO CEOs do understand at certain level what's happening because it probably overlaps with some frameworks.
True.
DPDP is, I would say, of course, if somebody has a PIMS as a base or something, but do you think that it's not business owner friendly? It's more towards the legal and the compliance team.
It is. It definitely is, and that's why it has been made in the first place. Otherwise, had it been business friendly, so someone, someplace wants to guard you.
Yes.
Or guard themselves against loss of someone, right?
Right.
And it will definitely require good legal team to make you understand. Either you have your team, or you get a team member qualified for that.
Yeah. And that's, I think, sometimes this problem acts like a defense, wherein I would say I never knew can be a pretty valid thing for a person who is running a chai shop with 3 employees.
Yeah, so that's exactly my point, where I said that the grassroots awareness and the complexity itself is the biggest impediment for it to be to be maybe implemented that easily, and the harshest of the punishment or the harshest environment and adaptation will go to the MSME and startups.
So moving ahead with the most crucial thing, Pratik, I first would like to paint a scenario so that everybody out here could understand what they should be doing in terms of the immediate steps for DPDP. Say I have an e-commerce business. I'm a small, person who probably is operating online or through WhatsApp, collecting data like email, address, phone numbers, sometimes even PAN for delivering large orders, or I'm an AI-based firm who is developing applications, automating softwares for companies who are into fintech, non-BFSI. So what is it that I'm supposed to do as the owner or as somebody who's looking into the security, IT, or compliance right now immediately?
So immediately, I think you should first understand that what is the data that you are collecting
Yes.
and where is it coming from. The biggest gap of understanding comes in companies like you've highlighted, is that it's not only the customer data, you are also collecting employees' data,
Yes.
right? And then you are sharing that data with the HR company or a sub vendor who is providing you services.
And which we, being in compliance for a longer period, we've always come across patterns where people are more bothered about the customer data, and probably if it's a very small company, say 100 employee, they don't bother kind of fencing or adding controls for their employee data unless they are going through some very crucial certifications, and that I've seen everywhere, like
True. So that's the problem.
the scope.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's, believe me, that's not a problem only with startups. Even big established business have have a lack of understanding in these concepts, or implementation gaps do exist. So, and rightfully so, is that you need to there do a understanding or a you call it DPIA,
Correct.
data privacy impact assessment,
Yes.
right? And then you have some concepts of, say, if you are doing a vendor contract, then do you have something called ROPA, that is record of processing agreements, how you are doing it with your subcontract vendors when the data is getting exchanged. But you need to understand that where the data is originating from, who is supplying that data, and who is consuming that data, and who is later on processing it. So that has to be done, and that's not very easy to do.
Exactly.
You need some person to do a gap understanding for you.
Yes. And it has to be actually coming across as an unbiased assessment.
True. It
So
has to be unbiased, cannot be your own team player
yeah,
who does it. Maybe some external agency. At times people do take help from some consultants,
exactly.
which do add value a lot.
Yes.
And in addition to that, now that you have done that, the next,
That's our typical phase one, where
yeah,
we
that correct.
kind of have these process flows which we understand first.
True. So you understand that, then you understand your gaps, and then you do have to implement, say, data masking, pseudonymization or anonymization, and encryption. So
That's way more than I had thought.
yeah, and then comes the most critical part of it, which is consent manager.
Oh yes, we all are still pondering upon what is it that exactly the board finalizes.
True. So I think now and that's why the complete law has been segregated into three phases. One that has exactly been implemented in the month of November. They have given 1 year for the consent manager to come into place.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, and for that they also now want it to be done centrally, so that you have proper government approved consent managers to regulate it.
Or agencies who give you a certified
True.
consent managers.
True, consent managers.
Yes.
And complete 18 months for a complete implementation or complete compliance readiness for, say, DPDP. So it will be a 3-phase process, but the phase 1 definitely starts with appointing a DPO, doing a gap analysis, and understanding where do you collect your data, who is consuming it, and where it is going to.
Also, when we spoke about the retail or a smaller company, we typically nowadays have funded startups, but they are just 5 to 6 employee companies who have done MVPs and are going live with bigger chunks of customers. That means they are going to churn out a good revenue.
True.
But they sometimes face these issues that they don't have a SPOC, they probably won't have a DPO. Should I say that probably companies like consultants who can probably act as their acting DPO, or probably there might be roles that are shared within the company who might also uh, take up those roles and act like one? You think that works, or it has to be designed in a different way?
So my personal experience say first there has to be somebody internally from your organization to help you for compliance and doing the gap analysis, because your environment, the best person who knows about yourself is you,
Yes.
right? But again, because it's a legal requirement in which the DPO has to report to the data protection board,
Correct.
right? And it crosses the boundaries of the board itself of your company, right? That person has to be neutral,
Yes, that's what.
right? So in that case, it definitely cannot be the CISO or the cybersecurity head,
Or
because
sometimes a CTO.
sometimes the CTO as well, because in a small company you can't have so many people to
You can't
handle.
have, yeah.
Yeah. But I honestly think that a DPO appointed has to be both, he or she should understand both technical jargon.
Definitely.
They should be having technical understanding, because you may understand the gaps, you may propose the issues, but it may not be implementable,
Yes.
right? And then that person needs to understand the the legal language as well.
Exactly.
Record
That's where these consultants or DPOs who probably are either appointed or hired are lawyers who have turned into a CIPP certified professional
correct.
and have gone through the entire compliance program where they understand the tech as well as the laws.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I carried forward from my training via DSCI, was that we had few people who were lawyers, and I also understood that having a person from a legal background,
It's crucial.
it helps you to implement things, because the way they read through things,
We don't understand.
we don't, the technical,
legislative
yeah,
controls
the
specifically.
it's very difficult to understand. So Shivani, I'll also now take you to a new jargon or a new thing that the government has proposed, called the consent manager,
Yes.
right? And first of all, that for everyone, let's take them through what is a consent. So whenever a person is sharing their data, they have the right to first share. They should be having a right to edit, modify, port, and delete.
Oh.
So these all rights are the rights of a data principal or the data subject, right? And
that person can belong to any industry, whoever, a small, even a student, or
anyone. So if I am operating a company and I am collecting your data, so my consent manager should have these all facilities when you are sharing your data with me, and that's throughout the data life cycle.
and I can't help thinking, what about these colleges and universities, coaching
True.
schools?
Coaching institute. So they'll take time to understand it, mature.
And one more thing is that they are using these applications given by vendors for all of this, right?
So at times, not only vendors, there are some applications which the students are making for themselves, right?
Yes.
Right. Suppose I am the class CR and I have made an application which is now being used by complete college,
Yeah.
and the entire college,
The project.
for any project,
Yeah.
complete PII data of all students are
God knows where they are uploading.
where they are uploaded.
Which is one of the major concerns.
Correct. So though it's not a company, but then the if you talk about the college, then the college itself is an legal entity. Right. So these critical gaps do exist, and I'll also take you to a new scenario, which is not that much prevalent in India, but abroad it is. What if I have shared my consent and I have shared everything with you, but somewhere down the line I realize, let me change my sex? Does your consent manager even have a technical know-how or a facility, or in your database that option does exist?
We don't.
Nobody has.
Nobody.
So yeah, so these are the technical challenges to implement consent manager as well.
Yes.
And portability is also one option which maybe come at a later point. And I think because of that, these critical gaps and the fact that the consent manager or companies that are going to provide you have to be registered with the government. And that's why the government have given you that leeway of 1 year, maybe in November 26, the consent manager framework needs to be implemented.
What if it doesn't happen?
So if it doesn't happen, if the government is not able to, or they give a relaxation, it's still good. It's like you are getting, there's a deadline to file the taxes, and the
Then they
government
keep giving you some grace.
grace period.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go beyond the grace period, then there are fines, and then it will be like
It's gonna be extremely messy after that.
it will be definitely messy.
So now, what would be a smart move by any startup owner or a CEO to kind of at least have that basic fencing and move ahead with his production? So somewhere I feel everybody has to halt and think about this, which I feel after probably listening to us, people might ponder and start taking steps. But I just wanted to understand, like, what can that thing be?
So depends on your org structure. If you don't have a appointed security team with you, then you need to find out that who is that security or person in your team who can handle security.
Correct.
Right? But even if you have that, or you appoint somebody who is not vertical into it, you need to have somebody to handhold you to understand your architecture and then guide you. Is where probably a external consultant may come handy.
Exactly.
Because understand this, that government will force you or put legal foundations or sanctions onto you, but that can your clear audit can only be done by a transparent or a neutral person.
As are different compliance audits that we do.
Correct. Different audit compliances.
But here, I believe there are these one or two rules which are going to be extremely crucial if not a DPO already in your company. And then there's a consent manager which the government and India will still get to know once, the board decides how the consent manager is going to get certified, and you have to move ahead with it. So I feel there are these two concerns, but I think what somebody, as you added, Pratik, would start is like at least start thinking, start classifying data, update those policies that you probably have configured for either ISO or SOC 2
True.
or NIST. At least a basic assessment is something
Is
everybody
important.
can start.
Yeah. I also agree to what you're saying, and you might have seen some organizations not having a clear-cut designation of a head of cybersecurity or head of product security or a
Everywhere.
CISO.
Everywhere.
That generally, in case of startups, what I have observed is that comes only prior IPO, because that becomes mandatory. But now DPO will be a mandate.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Even if you are going for an IPO or not going for an IPO,
you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
For now, yeah.
Right. So the way you have somebody to handle your finance, you will be having somebody to handle your data privacy, and it may be a appointed person from your organization or maybe somebody external.
And what I feel sometimes is small steps lead to bigger changes. I mean, I have seen good companies not even having a cookie consent. Now that's the first thing I think I would like to see, that a defined privacy policy and a cookie consent, which is going to be that at least a basic thing that some person, like when you go for ISO or any other framework, the scoping, assessment, and the policy becomes your pillar. But here I feel that small things would give you a great start, at least in terms of front end. I mean, when people are visiting your websites, that's the first thing that probably you should be hitting on.
True. And I think what you are adding is also taking me back to my days when I started being in automotive industry background. To be very honest, is that at times people say that, okay, it's about digital data, right? We are not processing much of the digital PII data.
Yeah.
Right. But if you start the law at the very first instant, is either it is digital or converted to digital. Exactly. So suppose a customer comes to my place, and while delivering the 4-wheeler or 2-wheeler, I take the KYC data.
Exactly.
Right. And then they go. That is also a PII data, but in a hard copy or a physical form. Then what, just for record purposes, my sales team takes a scan, puts it in my LMS or somewhere, and then that physical data becomes a digital data and falls under that purview.
Everywhere. And, to add to your experience working in the automotive industry, now say I live in Pune, and it's always more of manufacturing automobiles, which has been the most important industry out here. So what's your take about especially these automotive industries? Companies like, examples like Cars 24. So they probably directly are not into designing or anything,
True.
but they are into this market. So right from companies who are designing, manufacturing, distribution, to companies like them whose industry domain is auto vehicles or everything. I feel, is there something specific about the privacy and DPDP, especially India based, they should be thinking about or pondering, or it's gonna be a unified thing for any startup or any domain?
So I take it other ways. Anything that's if you're in a sector that's coming close to a human touch or a physical connection, if you are in that industry, definitely you will be touching a PII data,
Correct.
right? Human touch. Let's say you are into aerospace. A person is flying in your aircraft. It's a PII data. Hospital industry, believe me, it's by far one of the most stringent sensitive laws,
Yeah.
because there even foreign nationals come and they
Yes.
stay, and they also have child data.
Yes, and
Right.
we have HIPAA
Correct.
from the West, but of course, I feel DPDP is going to be the biggest overlap and
Correct.
a great securing.
True. Same
framework.
goes for, say, automotive, like you are saying. If there is a person driving a vehicle, then anybody in that environment, right from, say, lead generation to sales and after sales and life cycle support, are
Data is
handling
flowing.
data is flowing, right? So anybody and everybody, and is if they are touching a physical form or a human intervention, they will be having some sensitive data. Same goes for, say, Cars 24. They are not directly in that supply chain, but still somebody in
So
the
they deal with banks as well as the
True.
B2C.
True.
So it's going to be a different altogether churning of data and classification out there.
Correct.
You guys might have heard that in November 2024, recently only, Asian News had sued OpenAI in Delhi High Court. Now, this feels like something, which is more towards the breaches, more towards our privacy, a domino falling. So tell me, Pratik, like, what do you think the impact might be when it comes to DPDP?
In such a scenario, what actually happened was that ANI sued OpenAI for training its own AI engine or the complete model on their copyright data.
Correct.
Without their consent. So there is where the consent manager plays a very important or a pivotal role.
Correct.
And what monetary as well as legal compliances do fall behind it. And then the AI engines are regularly training their models and the processing is happening every given moment. So
when we say that the OpenAI servers are in US, are the Indian codes
true? So if you go by the law, if it's a PII data of a citizen of your country, then any service provider who operating in your legal foundations need to comply with that law. So if you
have the power of entitlement.
Correct.
In the entire
Correct.
data.
But that's only if you're talking about, say, data privacy. Here it's also about copyright infringement and trademark infringement, which has come into play without informing someone. And that's why it's not only now restricted to, say, ANI, you have other news agencies also adding up in this case.
Because most of us had this slight confusion that if it was in US, why was OpenAI sued by our own?
So they can probably get away with the fact because their servers are resident there. The Indian law wasn't enforced at that particular moment of time, but definitely it does hamper the Copyright Infringement Act, which it does exist, and the IP Patent Law Act, which is already there, which was prior the DPDPA coming into place. And that's the way how this discussion will go. Also, after coming of this particular law, what happens? Suppose a AI model has trained your particular data, but that data was not provided by you, but your sub vendor or maybe third party or fourth party vendor,
which is most of the time the same.
Which is most of the time the same, and that's why in your complete data life cycle and your contracts, you should be having now a clause of DPI ROPA
for our vendors as well.
Yes, or a data sharing agreements. Right? Because though it's your PI data, but being processed by someone else, so the processor also falls under the same ambit. And if it is consumed by someone else, then whosoever is consuming that data also falls under the same ambit. And for each and everything of how the data is being used, manipulated, there has to be a formal consent to be taken from the data subject.
And this, to me, seems like a bigger and a very crucial problem that everybody will need to address specifically in India, because even if I'm functioning, say I have 80% outsourcing happening for everything and I'm more focused towards my product and architecture, you know how it is. But now when we say that we'll have to start abiding by all of these laws, I know most of my vendors are not. Now, is that a blocker? Or, you know, when people are watching us, they are now thinking that, oh, this is such a big bottleneck.
So I'll be a devil's advocate for the company, and I'll now speak the language of the legal team members or the government, right? Because till such time we were talking about what the government has done, why they have done this. But let's take the other side and think from their perspective. So the delay of introducing the act and then enforcing it took some time, and that time was deliberately given to take feedback from certified data protection officers or organizations who may have their own different domains in which they are handling PII data. So that window the government gave, and that's why there were amendments to this, to the way it was introduced and to the way it is.
It is.
Right?
I think still there's a fair amount of time where, you know, why we say that you need a DPO or you need, you know, these certified consultants who might help you kind of legally bound into these rules, is because it is extremely difficult when you have a multi-tenant, multi-region, and a background where probably you've outsourced so many processes. So now when you sit and understand that what is the percentage, what is that huge gap that I need to address as well as close, it's going to be a considerable assessment and work, which probably is not possible internally if you start. Correct. And I think sooner the better is what I feel. Everybody should understand.
Yeah, sooner the better, and that's why government has rolled it out in 3 phases. I think anybody and everybody should just start off with appointing a DPO, taking a legal support and an auditor, and do your own due diligence of the sensitive data. Then still you have 1 year to implement the consent manager, right? Because even the government has not made very clear-cut guidelines as to how it will function. And
you know, we have, just to add to this, is some of our existing customers, from the time probably when the act got addressed or came into discussion, everybody has taken some or the other steps who are aware, and probably even we figured out that they should be going through. So some of them have started it.
Yeah.
But yes, this confusion on some of the amendments in terms of going live as well as the consent will get addressed eventually.
Will get addressed, and you still have 1.5 years of time.
Yes.
By which you have to be completely complied with. So, and that's deliberately why government has given you that window. So, which will have its own journey. But even for MNCs, if I talk not only focusing on MSME startups, if it requires a local resident copy of your data, you need to have your cloud servers or maybe data warehousing facility in India or Indian premises, where even the biggest cloud service providers didn't have or don't have at the moment. That's why you will have, it's a law for India, and that's why you will have more Make in India companies coming up, and that's why you see Zoho being promoted at a very large level.
That's a classic example. Yeah. So, you know, just to conclude, or maybe I can say that any OpenAI company in India is probably viable to take permission when they are trying to, experiment with user data, or they are trying to gather information and process it. So they are liable to take permission now from a particular board by abiding by these laws.
But I think this will also support maybe a parallel AI company coming up in India, because not everybody will comply with the India law. right?
Yes.
So it will in a way boost more Make in India concepts. Again, for the auditing firms also, the big four, like we say, are all external to India, right? You might have a big Indian auditing company firm arising just because complying with the Indian laws.
And that is going to be a massive shift.
Yeah, it will be a shift, definitely.
Okay, so let me try to synthesize what we have learned today. We've got DPDP, the new data protection law that 97.5% of our Indian companies do not understand. We've got penalties that we spoke, can lead to bankruptcy with our startups. We have consent managers, which still don't exist, but are going to be soon live till November 2026. And then we have OpenAI getting sued for scraping Indian content. So, Pratik, do you really think that India is ready for this privacy war that's starting?
So readiness, I don't think so. We are there yet. There's still time to be battle ready, but there won't be a time in which you will be ready in an instant. And that's what in the military also it's said that either you are at war or you are preparing for war. So till the time you don't have that kind of concept in privacy and security, you might not succeed. So that's why if 18 months is your deadline, I think today is the day to start, and it should be on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Your assessments have to be daily. Your gap analysis has to be daily. And it is not that once you reach a particular milestone, then you again don't have to do it. Even the law says that annually you have to do that site review.
Correct.
Right? So it's a cultural shift, though we are not ready for it, but then the earlier you do, the better it is for the company.
If I am a e-commerce startup owner or a person dealing with, bank data or even a chai shop vendor, what is that one thing that a person can start from next week?
So there is no magic wand kind of a solution to it that you can solve today. You will solve everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has to be a phase cycle, the way we discussed before. First, understand that what is the data, classify it, what is the PII data, because Data Privacy Act of the law generally is around PII data.
And there are phases.
There are phases. So understand the data, how you are collecting it in physical, digital form. Is it being translated? Then who is getting it? Who is using it? How are you transferring it to the...
And then we have those principles which probably when people start training themselves, that you have data fiduciary,
Correct.
You have the processor and the controller.
Correct. So during this life cycle, you have to demarcate who is the data principal or the data subject, whose data you are processing, then who is the data fiduciary or the controller, and who is the data processor. So complete data stewardship also revolves around it. Your data governance has to come around it, right? And in entire supply chain of data, so-called, there have to be encryption, anonymization, and pseudonymization.
That's going to be the crux of it.
Correct, crux of it. But yes, if you ask me a very easy solution, I think data minimization is the thing to start implementing.
And can you run us through one short example for that?
So one short example is that if I ask you for your KYC details, or when you are I'm onboarding you, I might ask you, okay, give me your Aadhaar card, give me your driving license, give me your PAN card.
Typically, yeah.
Typically, give me your passport number, right? Most of the things have everything in common, right? So do I need to collect all four of them, or even one will solve my purpose?
Exactly.
That means you have already minimized an exposure of 4x to just 1x.
Yeah, and especially companies who are in pre-MVP or are into the POC phase can definitely, include these principles in the design.
Correct. So just to quantify it, maybe a 4 GB data zipped to 1 GB.
Yes.
A 1 GB to some MBs.
Yes.
Some MBs to KBs.
Exactly.
So the lesser the data, the better the guardrails will be around it.
The simplicity.
Yeah. Your risk exposure comes down.
Right.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's data minimization will be a very key role that
in terms of implementation.
It will help you to achieve the milestone faster.
And then we'll have your consent happening
True.
Through a certified third party audit.
True.
And post that probably you will be eligible enough to kind of certify, or we would say probably share reports that at the end of the term that we are compliant enough, and that would suffice at least for the first 3 phases that gets completed.
That is true. So it will be a step-by-step cycle in which a company will probably achieve it, and at every milestone, probably you will get more assurance. And the earlier you start doing it, your implementation will be faster, and your internal team will also keep learning on it. First, you have to implement in your ecosystem, then also expand it to your third-party vendors. And to mitigate the third-party risk assessment, which I think is a big threat in data privacy than plain cybersecurity.
It might be a blocker in many cases.
True, it may be a blocker in many cases. And
the business will have to halt and kind of remediate first these issues or risks that they would get into.
True. So in case of MSME and startups, at times a brilliant CEO might have a very good idea, but all the investors who are coming or the VC funders, funding agencies will first ask, okay, go and be complied with this law and then only talk to us.
Exactly. And that's how probably the other frameworks were given importance and they got established. So that is what we see a DPDP journey happening in India. But I think the only most important step would be that everybody has to start now. Probably most of the mid-scale companies haven't. Hope you guys have gained a lot of knowledge and insight from this session. Please let me know by commenting or giving your opinions or asking questions in the comment box. Definitely like, share and subscribe this channel. And I would like to thank Pratik for coming and giving his invaluable time, sharing his experiences and giving such a wonderful insight with use cases for everybody to learn and implement DPDP going forward. So thanks again, Pratik.
Thank you, Shivani, for calling me and discussing this very relevant topic, that's DPDP. And to all the viewers of yours, I think it will not be a sprint, it will rather be a marathon and also a relay race between you and your contractors.
Yes.
So the earlier you train yourself, the faster you will achieve the milestone.
Correct. And I think well started is winning the half game and the complexity can definitely be simplified.
Correct.
So yes. So stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, take care.